Hey, welcome to our series with Pitsco and ESUCC as we're looking to just create some supports for the robotics solutions purchased as part of our GEERs funding and making sure that we have an opportunity, to not only think about what was in our mini catalog that our Nebraskans statewide got a chance to purchase for public education, but then also where that might reach the classroom, right? And so we're going to have a conversation today with Jake Rudisil of Pitsco, Preston Frazier of Pitsco as well. And so those will be our reps that will give us a chance to better understand the respective solutions that were purchased for this video in particular, specifically for that pre-K to second grade band. There are a series of these videos, and so you can certainly check out the 3.5, 6.8, and then that high school webinar as well for those respective solutions. But we're also joined in each and every one of these webinars by some of our ESU colleagues from across the state. And so today we have Ashley Rasmussen of ESU2, who's joining us to share some ideas on where, again, these might meet the classroom. And so with that being said, with each of these, we're starting off by just getting a chance to go through where folks can get some support. So that'll be where we start before we get into BBots, BlueBots, and Kubo coding in that order. And so for those looking for support broadly, Jake, where can they find that?
For sure. So let me go ahead and share my screen really quick, and I'll kind of walk you through what to expect and where to go when working with Pitsco. Let me pop up. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so the first and foremost, if some of you have worked with Pitsco Education before, you've probably become accustomed to knowing our approach to support. For those of you that haven't, we're excited to start working with you. But one of the things that Preston and I want to make sure that everyone understands is that Pitsco really prides ourselves on offering industry-leading support services. That could be anything from having a personal touch, being able to connect with individuals like Preston and myself for one-to-one support, having resources available for educators to access and feel empowered to utilize these solutions to the best of their abilities, and also content for students to be able to lead some things on their own as well, but then also having support teams and service teams that they can access. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how to work with Pitsco and how to go find the information that you might want, because there's a lot of it out there. So the first thing I'm going to point you to is our website. It's going to be www.pitsco.com. And this will be a major resource for anything that you're going to be looking for teachers' guides, for applications and those types of things, for devices, for connecting with us. Anything that you can imagine, it's probably going to live on this website. So the first place I'm going to show you is our support page, which in the upper header here over to the right, it says support. You can click on that, and that's going to get you the information on how to contact our support teams. So we have a variety of support teams. The order support team is going to be your generalized customer service if you place an order with us, or if you have questions. If you haven't, you should have received all your items from your the GEERs purchases, but during the time that those were all coming out to you, this would have been the team that you wanted to contact for logistics of, hey, where is it at? Those types of things. We also have a product and technical support team. So I think that a lot of districts and educators across the state of Nebraska will be leaning on this team a lot. You can schedule virtual calls with them so that you can have video similar to what we're doing here, so you can actually hold the product up if you need some information on how to use it. Email, phone, and then live chat. And the two things I'll say about phone and live chat: phone, it's going to be an actual person on the end. You're not going to have to go through a bunch of voice prompts to get to the team. And it's a team that you'll probably start to develop some relationships with. They're available year round, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can also live chat. So over here on the bottom left, there's a chat widget. You can select the department that you need and in real time start a chat with them as well. And then the last piece that I'll mention on this page is our ed services. So Pitsco also offers a variety of professional development resources. And so if you're looking for some additional resources, need some extra help, that would also be a team that you can get in touch with. So generally, this is the page you're going to use when you want to get in contact with someone from a support standpoint. A lot of people like to do self-help in this day and age too. So the biggest thing that I would point you to is this global search. It doesn't pop up unless you click on the magnifying glass, but we're going to just pop in. Let's say that we ordered BBOTs as a part of this GEER initiative. So one of the things I want to point out is it does show the product results. But if you continue to scroll down, it's going to have a lot of other resources available. So for here, you can see that there's an app with BBOT that's a supplemental piece. If you want to download that, you can download it right from here. There's getting started videos and those types of things. And there's also different types of resources like the activity guide, planning form. So they can download these resources straight from this page if they'd use the global search. So that's one way. If I don't know where I'm going and I don't necessarily know the exact name of the product, this is one place you can go from a global standpoint, everything on our website. Another place that I would encourage you to go is the product detail page. So if I click on the BBOT's product detail page and scroll down, and this will be on every product that Pitsco has available, you can see that there's a lot of resources down here, similar to what was populating in that search result. I can download an activity guide. I can download the teacher's guide. I can watch some videos on how to explore algorithms with BBOT and how to debug with BBOT. And so the biggest things that I would encourage everyone to do is to go to either the support page and get in contact with us, or go ahead and do the global search or product detail page. The last thing, Andrew, I'll let you talk a little bit about. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I'll let you talk about the landing page that we're going to be working on and going to be available soon.
Yeah, I love that everything is so easily accessible on the Pitsco page, and recognizing too that there was a mini catalog that went out that sort of curated some of those Pitsco resources. Pitsco and the ESUCC in collaboration have worked on a site where it is really kind of whittled down to just those offerings. And so it should be something where if you're someone who was involved in the purchases for pre-K through 12 solutions, you would find everything you'd need for those on that site that is shared here at the bottom, along with this video. So you might be watching this video on that site. And so speaking of video supports as well, it's important, I think, to note, as Jake was showing you there, that there are videos for student use as well. If you as a teacher feel a little uncomfortable with being able to support students, that those video resources that are student facing are also a part of what you might find. And so with that being said, BBOTs is a great place for us to start, because in this pre-K to 2 solutions video, we are going to explore those in order, as we mentioned, BBOTs being the first of those. And so let's look into that particular solution and get to understand it a little bit more in detail. And so I'm not sure who wants to start us off with that, but here is that BBOTs getting started package.
For sure. I can take the BBOTs in, and I'll probably talk about BBOT and BlueBot kind of collaboratively together, because they are similar. They come from the same family line, if you will, of products and design. And so the first thing that I would kind of say about BBOT is maybe answer the question of why would we focus on coding in grades pre-K through 2, right? And so one of the biggest things that we talk about at the elementary space and those early grades, at least we being Pitsco, is skills development. And so while it might sound like science fiction to go, well, why are we teaching preschoolers how to program a robot? We're not necessarily teaching them a language or a coding language. We're actually giving them an opportunity to develop key 21st century skills that helps to, and no pun intended, but almost wire their brain to think like a programmer. So when they get to those upper elementary grades, middle school and high school grades, they've already developed the skills to understand how to practice decomposition and break a larger problem down into smaller steps. And then also understand like the computational thinking side of understanding sequences and patterns and those types of things. So some of the other things that we're going to be working on with BBOT and BlueBot is going to be understanding like directional awareness, understanding how to communicate and collaborate with each other. So one of the things that we always talk about, and we have been in these webinars, is the number of students per device. With BBOT and BlueBot, we highly encourage more than one learner to a device. And the way that we would normally do that, you can do 1 to 2 students, or even get up to 4 students. But what we would encourage when you're going to do that is we're going to encourage you to give specific roles, right? So that they all have their responsibility and they learn to work together collaboratively to solve a problem. Now, with this particular Getting Started package that you see here on screen, we weave in the early coding concepts to storytelling. So you can see that typically with Bbot and Bluebot, there's going to be a variety of themed maps and themed activities. And we use those in a way to allow for real world connections so that they can tie their learning that's happening in the classroom to the world outside of their classroom. And so what it might look like for Bbot and Bluebot is to start at a specific place on a map, and the end result is to get to another place on the map. So it's an open-ended challenge. There's a lot of ways to solve this problem. So they've got to use their creativity and teamwork to be able to program Bbot to get to that place. How Bbot and Bluebot work, and I've got them here. I show them on screen. They have directional arrows. When the arrows are pressed, the Bbot will move it's about 6 inches, but on those maps that you see on screen, they have black squares. They will move, each button will move the length of one of those squares. So they also can start to work on things like counting as well, right? And left, right, cardinal direction, those types of things, so that they know how to tell someone where to go do this and communicate. So the biggest thing that I'll probably say the difference between Bbot and Bluebot is going to be Bbot is probably the entry point where you only control it on the device using these directional arrows. And then Bluebot introduces Bluetooth technology. So you the learners can start to learn that and recognize that I can control this device wirelessly. And so what you're seeing on screen there with Bluebot, it also has the themed mats, so similar to Bbot. So it's that nice transition piece. But from a Bluetooth technology, it introduces a piece like this called a tactile reader, where it can actually take the same type of directional-based programming, and it can Bluetooth that to the Bluebot to be able to control it wirelessly. With Bluebot, I think that it has the most versatility, because you can not only program it on device, but you can also program it all the way up through block-based programming. So those apps are going to be available on pitsco.com. But I think the biggest thing with those is going back to the idea of skills development. It's not so much teaching a programming language, it's teaching the foundational skills that are going to be tools that these students can learn or use to harness any problem that they are going to see through their educational journey. You're muted, Andrew.
And one of the things that I love about getting to learn more about the different Pitsco solutions is that there is an evolution. It seems almost like a scope and sequence where you kind of had your introductory solution, and then as learners grow in their skills, that they don't end up with a ceiling based upon the offerings that are here. And so what I am going to ask now is to invite Ashley into our conversation. And when we think about Bbots or Bluebots, where does this meet the Nebraska classroom? And as someone who works at our ESU network, what connections are you making as you're learning about those particular solutions from Jake?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of school districts that even prior to the purchase had Bbots in their classrooms. And so I've sort of seen these in action, and I actually have 2 really good examples. One of them is a science example. I had a kindergarten teacher that was teaching a pushes and pulls unit, forces in motion, which of course the Bbot automatically is very much motion. But I don't know if you saw in the picture, but there are these little pushers that you can snap on the front of a Bbot. And what they did is they had different objects they had to push. So they did marbles, or they did rocks or pennies. And so they were pushing different objects and talking about, how many times did I have to push the button to move the object, 2 or 3 squares, and kind of getting that relationship on a very entry level between mass, force, motion. It was just really neat. And the kids loved it. And they were making predictions, and they were talking about, the objects they thought they could move the furthest with the least amount of the number of pushes is what they were using to count force. And it was just really fun to see them interacting with an abstract concept in that way. The other one was using some of these maps. I believe the class was second grade when they were learning about communities in their social studies class. And what they did is they took one of these maps, and there's one that's a farm, I believe. There's one that's a city. They're all a little bit different. And their goal was they had to use the Bebot like it was a tour bus. And they had to program it to go through the city, and they had to narrate with a partner their tour. And they're like, next, we're going to stop at City Hall. City Hall is where our mayor works. Our mayor is the head of our city. And so they were giving like this little narrated tour, but they were able to use the bot, not just from a like science or engineering standpoint, but just as a mechanism for communicating other types of information. And it made it so fun and interactive for the kids. And it was almost like you were sitting inside this little bumblebee car, and you were taking this little tour across this map. And the kids, it was just so cute. I actually saw one of those done with a tour through an ecosystem at an older grade using an Ozobot. And so, I mean, very similar types of things, but I loved that it was a connection that wasn't necessarily science, math, or tech. They were connecting it to a social studies concept. It was just really, really neat. And the kids love these. Well, they're adorable. But.
So a perfect segue, Ashley, to talk a little bit about the content surrounding it that I hadn't spoke about yet. So Andrew, if you want to pull that back up really quick, I can talk about, there's two pieces to it, to the getting started package. And then if you scroll down a little bit, I'm going to also talk about the bundle that has some curriculum with it. And so as Ashley mentioned, this doesn't have to be a piece that is strictly focused on computer science, right? I think one of the beauties of Bebot is it is an engagement piece that can be integrated cross-curricularly. So I'll talk about this activity bundle here that I think many districts across Nebraska did get these materials. And so what you see there, the yellow piece right there is actually an activity guide that has, I want to say it's 32 different activities that are across a lot of different subject areas like ELA, math, social studies, social emotional, a lot of different things. And so with that comes with the card set that has 120 different cards. And as you can see, it's got letters, numbers, shapes, colors, emotions. And those clear mats, those are folded up. It's a big mat, and teachers can customize their lessons. And so that bundle right there actually has the materials for them to go ahead and have ready-made materials for 7 of those 32 activities. There's also a free digital download of this. So printed copies are available for purchase with this bundle, but if teachers want to, they can also get this available free of charge by downloading it online digitally. And so again, you can go to the Bebot product detail page, and that's going to be available. And then if you scroll up a little bit to that, the bundle getting started package, you also see the accessories with the tins, with the looks like little game pieces and little covers and those types of things. Inside of those tins is activities that probably cover about 5 hours worth of classroom time apiece. It's not going to be a full lesson plan, but it's going to be a lot of leading activities that give the teacher some ideas to get started. So like Ashley was referencing, like one of the activities is for a construction zone. And we talk about before we start engineering a structure, we've got to clear the rubble. So the activity, as similar to what Ashley was talking about, they use the pushers on a construction mat to actually clear rubble from the construction site so that they can build a solid foundation. So I really think the power behind this solution isn't necessarily just for computer science and programming. It's really that engagement piece for cross-curricular, and it kind of throws out the idea of just the set and get model, where really in early childhood, we have to engage them in these active ways and in these kinesthetic ways. The engagement piece with this is this, as Ashley said, it's awesome to watch. So really excited to see any of the use cases that have came out.
Love the back and forth here. And as Ashley mentioned, I do believe that community is the focus of social studies in second grade. And so we certainly have a nice pairing there to bring it into that content area. And so that really leaves us with one solution left to discuss of the ones that are available in that pre-K to 2 solutions grade band. And so we're going to talk about Kubo coding next, and I'm going to ask Preston maybe to take the lead on this one as we get a chance to learn more about that particular option. So Preston, tell us more about Kubo.
Yeah, so Kubo, I like that you brought up that, Andrew, that there seems to be an evolution or a continuum of different solutions as we move from pre-K all the way up through 12th grade. And Kubo is just another step in that continuum. I would say that it takes a different role in that pre-K through 2 coding space. Takes the B-bot and the blue bot to a different level. With Kubo, it's a screen-free coding solution. As you can see there's various puzzle pieces, magnetic tiles, but I call them puzzle pieces that have RFID chips on the bottom of them. And so how the Kubo operates is that you set up paths and routines and functions and subroutines and loops and all of that with those puzzle pieces. And the Kubo actually follows and kind of interprets what's underneath those puzzle pieces. And so as you get into this, you can see that it takes a little bit deeper dive into coding at that very early learning level. They learn more about functions, loops, subroutines. It gives a visual representation of what a program and a code looks like visually to them, so they can actually set out those puzzle pieces on the map. And then they can actually go back and say, hey, my robot didn't go where I needed it to go. What step in my process that I can see visually on the map? What step in that process did I go wrong, and what do I need to do to fix it? And then they can go back and fix that step in the sequence. We do recommend for each Kubo robot, each 4 screen-free robot there, 1 to 2 students per Kubo. With each kit, you get one of those puzzle piece mats that you see there as well. But you also, and probably the most important thing, is that you get access to the Kubo portal. And that is a teacher resource section that you can actually log into, and you get different tutorials, different videos, different lesson plans that you can use with the students. And going back to the cross-curricular concept as well, you see a map there. Within that teacher portal, you can go in and customize your own maps as well. So let's say you want to tie in history, you want to tie in oceans or water or anything along those lines. You can really customize those maps and get those maps printed out for the specific lessons that you want to do. And so it really ties in that cross-curricular element as well. And so this is a really strong piece to go hand in hand with the B-bot and the blue bot, just because it takes that coding. Once they get the foundational knowledge, they can start learning more about the functions and the subroutines without learning about the functions and the subroutines. They kind of just figure it out as they learn and move along. And so it's a strong piece in the elementary space.
Yeah, and I know, so my son really got into kind of coding some robotics at home and tinkering with those pieces as early as 1st grade, and the resiliency piece too, right? Of being able to fail and then have to really go back and think through your process, and having a visual like this here with these puzzle pieces to be able to, like record that and help them revisit it, and in that need for revision, I just really appreciate. And so when we think about maybe the Kubo evolution of the B-bots and the blue bot, Ashley, what are your thoughts? Probably some similar uses, I would imagine, as to ones we've talked about before, but does anything else kind of come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think some of those exact same things that we talked about with the blue bots and the B bots. But something I did think of is I like the idea that the maps are customizable, because I do really think that gives a teacher a lot of autonomy in terms of being able to go in. And I'm thinking this would obviously be probably a much higher grade level, but why couldn't we take a tour of the human body and be able to see our way through different systems and how they interconnect? Now that's a pretty high standard for a K2 student, but that potential to be able to take this beyond just a roadmap and really start looking at it from different capacities. I think the thing I haven't mentioned, and I see such a strong connection to this with all of your products, is the problem solving aspect. Our state standards for both math and science and career technical education, for that matter, have a really strong problem solving component. And then also at these lower grades, that idea of patterns. One of our cross-cutting concepts for science in Nebraska is patterns. And where do we see patterns, and how do patterns affect the way that things work, live, behave, act, et cetera? And so I think you're talking about with the Kubo and the tiles, and then that there's a problem solving component, there's a patterns component. And then how do we see that not only with the bot itself, but then how do we translate that into other types of learning and connect it to other patterns and other problems that we may encounter in different areas of learning?
Oh, absolutely. And I even think of the recent Computer Science and Technology Education Act guidance and the need for these types of experiences, maybe not specifically with regards to robotics, but that kind of thinking to be incorporated into your elementary and middle school experiences. And whether that's done by a librarian who's getting a chance to do that, as maybe part of their digital citizenship and, technology time, or part of a classroom like core content area, I think that there's a lot of applicability here across different disciplines. And so as we kind of draw to a close with this particular webinar, I think it is important for us before we leave to point to a couple of resources, again, that you have available to you if you're interested in learning more. First one is Preston, who's going to be in Nebraska in person in March here of 2023. And so if you're able to attend the Spring NETA conference, Preston's going to be there as a vendor with the solutions. And kind of speak, I guess, to your hope for that time, Preston, when you get a chance to visit.
Yeah, I'm going to be in booth 509 is where I'm going to be the entirety of the conference. And I'm just there to provide additional support. So anybody that has received additional items or any items as part of this initiative, I just want to be there to answer any questions that you have and just be there to help you guys on the ground, face to face, there in person, just to be there to help you guys anyway. And then also there will be a giveaway at the booth that I will be giving out. Can't share any more than that, but other than that, I'm going to there will be a giveaway at the booth as well. And so I am excited to be there in person to meet all of you and just answer any questions and provide any additional support that I can for you guys.
So whether it's on the Pitsco site or in person at NETA or at the site that's listed below here on the screen, where Pitsco and our ESU network statewide has had the opportunity to collaborate on developing these resources. We're here for educators. We're here for students and teaching and learning in our state and finding opportunities to bring these solutions into the classroom and get them in the hands of our students so that we can all grow in these areas together. And so thank you, Preston, Jake, Ashley, for joining us for this webinar. We encourage you to check out the others that are on this site that are a part of this series for the different grade bands. And reach out. Let us know how you're using these resources, and we hope that you're finding them useful in your local context. Thanks.